put some finishing touches on our scene, we have some tools that are common in traditional cinematography, things like camera focus and atmosphere and things like that we can implement. So I'm going to start with the atmosphere. In Blender, it's referred to as mist. Sometimes it's fog or atmosphere in other programs, but it's mist in Blender. And to turn that on, the first step we want to do is we want to go into the Layers tab. So if we're in Modifiers or Materials, come up here to the Layers tab. We want to make sure that the mist layer is turned on. After that, we can go up into our, our view options, and instead of render pass combined, we can go to render pass mist, and that's where we can see the mist applied. And so right now, things that are black are going to be completely visible, things that are white will be invisible, and things that are grayscaled are going to be kind of taken over by that mist and kind of kicked back into the atmosphere a little bit. This is a tool that we'll use to create some illusion of depth, and it does take some tinkering in order to get right. So we'll take a few more steps to get this looking good. The next step we'll take is in our camera. So in your camera, you can go down, select your camera from your collection chooser, go to camera, and then in viewport display, we want to turn on mist. And doing this will allow us to go back into our layout. And once there, we want to make sure that our camera is not locked to our view, so that way I can get a different view here. And with the mist controller active, we can then change the mist distance and see it change here in our camera. So let me show you how to get that done. The mist values can be found in our World tab. So click on the World tab and then find Mist Pass. And you can see the start point is scalable and the end point is scalable. So the start point says begin the mist transition from 0 to 1, and the depth says end the mist transition, meaning anything after this should be completely white. And so I kind of like seeing it about like this. So things like right at the beginning of our camera's path may not be in any mist whatsoever, and then things in the in the distance will be a little bit misty. Now it's important to note that the start and the end are connected. So if you increase the start, it's just going to keep pushing your depth further back. So you got to kind of change both. If you want like a really narrow like field of mist, you got to move both values. So far so good. Let's get back to our camera view. And I'm going to hit F12 to render, but I want to mention that this probably won't show anything too great just yet because we still need to tell our render to calculate the mist in a more meaningful way. So we might get a little something, but let's see what we can get. All right, so we've got our scene here that's rendering its samples. And our next step is to add that mist actually to our render flow. So we're not really seeing the mist in here yet, are we? So I'm going to go ahead and stop that render, and I'm going to switch to our compositing tab. Now this is a new tab that we haven't seen yet before, and compositing is going to allow us to use nodes just like we have in our textures and really modify how the render actually occurs. So I'm going to change a few things. Down below, I'm going to shift this from being our dope sheet, because that's usually useful for animation, and I want to switch this to 3D viewport. We'll put it to our camera view, and we'll set the viewport to rendered view shading. So that'll take its moment to do its thing. But up here, we have this mist output, and it's not going into anything. So we want to make sure that this mist has a controller and gets kicked out to this final composite. So this is a job for a few different nodes, and we'll create those now. All right, so I set my mix to take in my mist and my image. I set the factor to 0.5, make sure that's the case. That'll blur the two together. And then I did a render and hit F11. This is my resulting render. So I'm getting like some nice mist in there, but I feel like the foreshortening is a little bit extreme. So like it goes from super clear to like super misty. So I think we need a little bit of a blend there. So this might be another job for our gradient. That way we can get the mist going through a gradient slider just to give it a little bit more cleanliness. Let's try that out. Add, ramp, we'll do color ramp, and we'll put that here, and we're going to send the mist through that color ramp, just like that. So it just allows the mist to have a bit of a gradient slide there. So that way, if we pull this all the way to the left, you know, we're going to get lots of mist all the way to the right. One other thing I want to mention is I had to make some changes while this tutorial was in progress. I had my subdivisions cranked up way high, 6 and 6. Because I subdivided so much before they were applied, I was creating tons of geometry, and I was kind of running out of graphics memory in my renders, even with my beefy graphics card. So if you notice that you're getting any errors saying that it can't render your scene with cycles, you might want to drop these down a little bit. Could help you out. All right, one more render, F12. I'll pause while we're rendering. I'll come back in a moment. A little bit nicer, but still a little too extreme. Let's go ahead and make a few more modifications, then we'll move on to some depth of field before we finalize our image. So I've set up my scene to control this mist. I've changed my color ramp just a little bit. And then I went to my camera settings, world settings, and I've got my mist distance displayed here. I think what's happening is I need just a little bit more distance so that way my mountains aren't kicked into the darkness too much. I think this should be pretty good, and then we'll take next steps on some other tools. So new render coming right up. There we go, much nicer. We're getting that little mist and atmosphere off on the right. We're still getting a natural flow of our scene from kind of the camera view. I think it looks quite good. So let's go with that. All right, converting this back to our combined render. And next, I want to play around with a camera trick called depth of field. Depth of field is a really easy one to trigger. You just go into your camera settings, click depth of field, and you're instantly going to get some kind of focus control on your scene. That's going to give you control over f-stop and that sort of thing that you get on a traditional camera, as well as your focal distance. So already you can see that it's made my foreground a little blurry, and it's made my middle ground a little bit in focus. I like that quite a lot. I'm not going to do a render here because I want to add a few more things to my composite before I spend another little bit at rendering. And these are some tools that you may use, you may not want to use. And I'm going to click on the add, and the first one is glare. And glare we can just pop in after that mix. It's just going to feed it in, do a little bit of like a camera blend, camera bloom, that sort of thing that you can put in there. We can also use an anti-noise controller too, but glare I just wanted to add in before I did the depth of field. And then I want to look at my light also. My light's in the middle of my scene. Let's go back to our layout. I just want to see where my light is because I'm not getting a whole lot of that like yellow warmth that we're seeing in our sun. I just want to see if I can tweak that just slightly before we go to our final render. Making sure my camera is not being controlled by my perspective view. And there's my light. It's up top. Let's go ahead and bring it down closer to my scene. It's feeling pretty good there. It's the thing with the light is that it's just a bright white light. Let's give it a little bit of yellow. Nice. And the wattage I want to see double. I want to go to 2 and see how, let's get back in our camera view. See how it's just kicking a little bit more of that yellow kind of sunlight. I think it's going to give the illusion of that sun really lighting our scene a bit more. And then maybe, let's just see. We're going to push it one more. Let's go to 3K. All right, so now we've got depth of field. Now we've got our mist working for us. We've got a more powerful light, and we've got the glare. We may be ready for our final render. So I'm going to hit Control S or Command S just to save before that final render kicks in. You always want to do that just in case it crashes on you at the very end here. So new render coming right. All right, and that's looking pretty good. I have a few gripes, but as an exercise or even as kind of the base for an assignment, I think this looks pretty good. I'm quite fond of the depth of field. I think it gives it a sense of cinematic quality to it. The glare is pretty nice. Some artists prefer to have zero glare. Those are actually defects that are created by camera lenses. So they kind of look like mistakes, but to build a little bit of cinematic kind of zing, those glares can be kind of nice. I do like my lighting quality. I think the lighting intensity is nice to get some of those kicks off the edges here. The only thing I'm really not loving too much is just kind of my sense of overall scale. I think my rocks are a little bit too big. Maybe I'd tweak those a tad. And I'd love to see some like additional displacement happening on those rocks and get the snow to fall over them a little bit more cleanly. But overall, I'm pretty happy with what we've got here with the 60 or so minutes that we've spent. So this will wrap it up for this segment, and good luck with those renders and environments. If I were to take this to, let's say, another view, I could swap out the HDRI, I could swap out the lighting scheme and get a little bit of like a twilight night scene going here. And that's how I would kind of view this environment from a few different times of day and a few different kind of themes like that. So good luck with your future renders.